الله رحيم الله مالك الله قدس الله.
Going on.
So can you tell me what you believe about like the attributes of Allah?
Yes, God has attributes. These attributes are concrete and abstract depending on how you define, and they are going to be really, really distinct between themselves and between the essence of God.
So are they dependent on one another?
Yeah, there's an interdependency.
Between one another or between the essence?
Both.
Okay, so they're dependent. Like say we have two things, both is dependent on each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the essence dependent on them?
Yeah, the essence wouldn't exist without attributes.
So your God is dependent then, if the essence is dependent.
No, that's a strong man.
How? You just said the essence was dependent.
A counterfactual dependency does not negate independency.
Say that again?
A counterfactual dependency does not negate independency.
How?
What? Because a counterfactual dependency, by definition, is self-sufficiency.
It solves what?
It's, dude, what do you, bro, okay,
Cutting out when you're talking.
hold on, user, are humans independent?
No.
Okay. Can I say that I independently went to work? Like I just being by myself, I used myself to go to work, can I say that?
Not completely independently. There's a sense in which it's independent, but it's not completely independent.
In what sense is it independent?
In the sense that your will isn't determined by anything.
Okay. Now, okay, so hold on, let me give you a better example. If I make ramen noodles, right, and I make it by myself, would you say that I'm independently making them?
It's both.
No, okay, would I say I'm dependent because I'm using my hand, or am I still independent because I'm using only myself?
You're still dependent, like, just in general.
In what sense?
In the sense that you're dependent upon being created.
No, we're not talking about that.
It is, because that's why I said in general.
No, we're not talking about that. We're not general dependency doesn't matter here. We're talking about me, myself, and the process of making the food. Could we say that I made it independently by myself?
Only in the sense of your will doing that, yeah.
Okay, and me using my hands to do it, right?
Sure.
Could we say that I'm dependent while doing it? Not in virtue of me being created, but in virtue of me using my hands?
Yeah.
Please explain that to me, dude.
Because it's independent. Your will is not determined by anything.
You're not even answering my question. Can I be called dependent for making food with my hands?
Yes.
Just that. Okay,
Yes.
Explain the dependency there.
Because I already explained, because of dependency in general.
No, I'm asking you in the specific instance of me
You
making
can't separate
the food.
that from...
No, yes, you can. Yes,
I don't
you
think so.
absolutely
Why?
can. Yes, you
Why?
can. Because we're talking about the instance of me specifically making the food. Could we say the instance of me making the food, I'm dependent?
The instance of you making the... No.
Yes. Oh, wait, but I'm using my hands. My hands are not me. So am I dependent on something else? Therefore, I become dependent?
You're dependent on something else, yes.
What? Other than my hands?
I already said in general. That's what you can't separate the generality.
Sir, yes, you can. Yes, you
No, you
can.
can't.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Because the same thing applies to God, right? God, he's an independent being. And this does not negate his independency for him to have a counterfactual dependency within his essence. So God relying on his attributes to exist is not going to be a real dependency because it's still him being self-sufficient and relying upon what is within his essence. That's not a real dependency. Hence, why I brought the example.
You said the attributes are really distinct, right?
Yeah, they're really
How
distinct.
do you define a real distinction?
A real distinction is where two things are not each other, but they're not separate. Now let me answer. Let me continue my response. Hence, why I brought the example of somebody making ramen noodles. In this specific instance, they would not be considered dependent. That would be gibberish. Because although they are using their hands, they are dependent upon their hands to make the food, they are still considered independent and self-sufficient in this specific instance because they themselves are using only themselves. They're not using something external to them. Do you understand?
I still don't think so, because when you're talking about the instance of something, you can't separate that from the universality.
Intellectual. Yes, bro. Am I dependent in the sense that would you consider a human independent in the sense that they have to make food with their hands? Specifically this.
Would you
Or would
consider
that be
human independent in that they have to make?
would it be self-sufficient to make food with your hands and no one else helping you?
Sorry, say that first part again.
Would you be considered self-sufficient if you specifically were making, let's say, again, you're making some food, right? And
Yeah.
you utilize your hands. Would I be considered dependent holistically because I'm using my hands?
No. Holistically, no.
Exactly. So for that very reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He utilizes His attributes that are really distinct from His essence. And this would not be considered a real dependency because He's not relying upon anything external to Him. Therefore, there is no contingency. It is simply self-sufficiency.
So if the attributes can be really distinct, why can't there be really distinct persons?
So now we're on. So now we're just talking about something else. Okay,
well, it's related to the same thing.
Fine,
It's related to the same thing.
Fine. It's okay. I consider that a concession. That's okay. So why can the attributes of God in His essence be counterfactually dependent, but the person's not? Let me tell you why.
Well, I'm talking about the real distinction, not about the
the real distinction by definition is going to be a necessary counterfactual dependence.
You could speak of the distinction without even mentioning the dependency.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah. What do you know? What a counterfactual
distinction is not the same thing as contingent as dependency.
Do you know what it's not a contingency. We're talking dependency.
No, I said a dependency.
Counterfactual dependency is not contingency. This is how I know you haven't read up. Listen.
A distinction doesn't.
Sir, can you stop talking while I'm talking? Like, you're so insufferable. Seriously.
Okay.
Do you know what a counterfactual dependency is?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what it is, and you're telling me that it's not the same as a real distinction.
How is a dependency the same thing as a distinction?
Dude, you cannot just categorize all of dependencies and all of distinctions and say they're not the same. Specifically in the context of what we're talking about, a real distinction within God's essence is going to necessarily be a counterfactual dependency. So now, user, you asked a good question, or a bad question. How can there not be a real distinction between three persons that are identified as God by identity, depending on the model of Trinity equal to, versus God having a real distinction between His essence and His attributes? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Because now we're conflating. Because we have the essence of God and His attributes depending to exist. Rather, now you have three things that are really distinct according to your paradigm, and they are all identified as God. Here, there's not a distinction between attributes and essence. Here, you have a distinction between things that are identified as God that are not each other.
Things that are the attributes identified as God?
Mine? My paradigm or your paradigm?
In your paradigm.
No, they're not God. They're divine, but they're not God.
So you have a divinity that's not God.
Yes, because everything that subsists within God's essence by definition is divine.
So how it subsists, jeez, I can't talk. It's subsisting in His essence, but it's not God.
Because there's no contradiction. Because whatever subsists within God's essence by definition is not Him. Because He doesn't subsist within Himself.
So does creation subsist in His essence?
No. Creation itself, no.
So why couldn't you have 30 gods all subsisting in His essence?
What? Because you can't have more than one God.
Why not? Why couldn't they just subsist in His essence?
What?
Why couldn't they subsist?
Then there would be more. Bro, what are you talking about? You're asking me how can I not have 30 gods?
Why couldn't you, in your paradigm, why couldn't there be persons subsisting in God's essence?
Because then the 30 gods wouldn't be God. Because by definition, they are subsisting within a thing that's bigger than them.
But they're still divine.
It doesn't matter. They're not God.
But they're divine.
That doesn't mean they're God.
So could you in your paradigm, could there be persons subsisting in Allah's essence?
No, because nothing subsists with it. Dude, because nothing subsists within God except for His essence. If you're gonna come and posit,
you just said the attributes subsist in God.
Yes, and these attributes aren't persons. They don't have.
You just said the only thing that subsists in God is His essence. You just contradicted yourself.
They are causally efficacious. Persons are causally efficacious.
What you just said is that the only thing that subsists in God is His essence.
Listen. You're rambling and you're not listening to my response.
You're not answering.
That's why you keep getting confused. Persons are rational agents that are causally efficacious in what we're talking about, right?
Sure.
Okay. Now, attributes, they are not causally efficacious. Do you agree? Just say you don't know what it
Say
means.
so, but for the sake of this,
Be
sure.
humble. Listen, be humble and say you don't know what causal efficacy is, so I can explain it to you.
It means it can bring about an effect.
Okay, so it has causal power. It can actually do something on its own.
But I don't think it has to be doing something on its own to have an effect.
Persons have causal efficacy, and what we're talking about. Attributes aren't. They are utilized.
Okay.
That's why you can't have persons within God, but you can have attributes. You understand?
Couldn't a person be utilized?
Oh my gosh. A person is utilized, but you cannot have something else within the essence of God that has causal efficacy. Only God, listen, the essence of God is going to be what's causally efficacious. What subsists within his essence it's not causally efficacious. For example,
so what causes creation?
What?
Creator is an attribute of God, correct?
Creator, that's a predicate.
Is creator one of the names of Allah?
Yeah, al-Khaliq, al-Khallaq, yeah.
Okay, so does that have causal efficacy?
What do you mean that? No. When you say the creator, it's not going to be... There's not an attribute called the creator that subsists within God.
Well, the 99 names of Allah aren't attributes?
Oh my God. The 99 names of Allah are direct predicates to the essence of God. So with that being said, if you say Al-Khaliq is... Wait, one second. Al-Khaliq is not something that subsists within God. Al-Khaliq is another name for God. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is identical to Al-Khaliq. He is identical to the Creator, and the Creator is identical to Allah because they are the same. So there's not just this thing that's called the Creator that subsists within God's essence, because the Creator is Allah. There's a distinction between the names of God and His actual attributes.
So can you tell me some of the attributes?
Yeah, power.
Okay, and what does that mean?
What does power mean?
Yeah.
It's ability.
So tell me another attribute.
What are we playing like 20 questions?
Yeah,
like
tell me another attribute.
What are we doing here? Like, are we playing 20 questions? Like, why do you want me to give you more attributes? Okay,
because it seems like power. It seems like power would encompass a lot of things that you call attributes.
Being able to see everything.
Is that a power?
What?
Is being able to see everything a power?
What? Yes, it's an ability. That's the point.
Okay, but you just said one of his attributes was power.
Yes, and that encompasses all things, being able to do all things. And of those things is seeing everything.
Are all of his attributes one?
No, they're not. We don't believe in the doctrine.
Hold on, listen. I asked you to name me attributes of Allah.
I just gave you attributes.
You told me, and you gave me power. You gave me power?
Dude. Power is not identical to being able to see everything.
Is it a power?
Well, it depends how you define a power. Right? So Allah, Him being able to see everything is going to be in virtue of Him having omnipotence, which is all powerful, being able to do all things.
Is having omnipotence a power?
Are you No.
Dude, you're contradicting yourself.
Omnipotence itself is power. Having all power, being able to do everything.
You just said power is an attribute.
Dude, you're actually so slow.
You contradicted yourself 3 times in the last 3 seconds.
There's no contradiction. Just stop talking I'm talking about, please.
Power, you said power, and then you said is all-seeing.
Can you stop talking? Thank you. Allah is omnipotent. Do you know what omnipotence is?
Yeah. His potential to do anything.
Okay, so the power to do all things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Him having the attribute or being able to do all things is not going to be in and of itself power, because omnipotence is power. Him having the omnipotent attribute or He's just omnipotent in general, that does not mean that He has power to be omnipotent, because that power in and of itself is omnipotence.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Oh, okay, so what's the argument?
Because name the 2 attributes you said.
Okay, being able to see all things and being omnipotent.
Yeah, but that's not what you said. You said his attribute is power. That's what you said the first time.
Omnipotence is power. You see how you're not tracking?
Is omnipotence power? Is omnipotence power?
Him being omnipotent constitutes of Him being powerful to do all things. So it's the same thing. They're identical. They have the same truth value.
So what are all the attributes the same truth value?
No, oh my God, no, dude. Truth value. You know what truth value is?
Yes, it's the value the value of a statement would be true or false.
Okay, his attributes aren't statements; they're not propositions.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a category error. It doesn't make sense for something to have a truth value. That's not a proposition. It's like saying, yo, sun. Is the word sun, does it have a truth value? No, it's a category error because it's not a proposition.
Yeah, but if I'm saying God is all powerful.
Yeah, that's going to have a truth value. Now, the attributes themselves don't have truth value. The propositions in which are going to be constituted, or the attributes being constituted within the propositions, then yeah, you can say there's truth values within the propositions.
So how many attributes are there total?
I don't know.
Like hundreds?
I don't know.
How many attributes does the Quran say?
But I don't know. The Quran just mentions 99 names. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have more attributes than 99 or he has less.
Well, I mean, but how many, not saying this is all of them, but how many does the Quran name? How many attributes?
Don't know how many attributes the Quran names. You mean how many names?
You read the Quran?
Allah has given us 99 names.
So does the Quran not tell you any attributes?
It does. Oh my God, you're actually so
Tell me the
slow.
attributes. Tell me the attributes the Quran says.
Can you make your argument? Can you make your argument?
You were not answering my questions.
I've answered every question.
Does the Quran tell you
I've
attributes?
answered every question. I've answered every question.
Does
The
the Quran
Quran
tell
gives us.
you
The Quran gives us. Wait. The Quran gives us 99 predicates plus one, which is Allah Himself, and that's how we can refer to Him. Now, these are not going to just necessarily be attributes. They are predicates of how God utilizes His attributes. Okay, so we don't know I don't know exactly how many attributes God has, or how much the Quran exactly lists. Can you get to your argument?
Yeah, can you tell me the attributes that the Quran gives?
That's not an argument. Can you get to your argument?
I want to know. I need to know this answer to make the argument.
I already answered. I don't know exactly how many attributes the Quran
I didn't
lists.
say exactly. I told you to name me some of them.
Okay, quwwa, which is, how many do you need?
Give me 5.
Okay, basar, which is being able to see. Okay, sam', which is being able to hear. Okay, and then you have what?
I said okay.
Khalq, being able to create. Adab, being able to basically torture. And bro, there's so many. And like the last one, we could just say that it's having the ability to be self-sufficient.
So attributes are abilities?
Yes, utilizing them, because you have the ability as an essence to utilize your
utilizing them, or is it the ability itself?
Bro, listen to me very closely. The essence of God, it's going to be a thing in which constitutes predicates, which are the attributes. They are the descriptors. You understand? So these descriptors or these attributes are utilized by God to do things. Hence why He's causally efficacious.
Okay. Is utilizing an attribute the same?
Why are you constantly asking questions? You aren't making an argument.
Utilizing the same thing as an ability.
Wait. You're literally sitting down taking notes because you haven't been able to.
I want to know what you believe.
Dude, you already know what I believe. You've been asking questions for 20 minutes, sir. Can you get to your argument? Can you get to your argument, sir? You're wasting my time.
That's why I'm at. Is utilizing, well, I have to know this. Is utilizing an attribute the same thing as the ability?
No, it's not identical. It's not identical. Having the ability to do things comes from the descriptors themselves.
Having the ability to do things comes from descriptors.
From the descriptors. Do you know what descriptors are?
Yeah, like a description, it would be like...
A descriptor.
Are the 99 names descriptors?
They're descriptors.
Right. So the ability to do it comes...
Wait. Yeah, okay, hold on.
I think that's backwards. Backwards.
Okay, can you just make an argument, dude? Make an argument.
Wouldn't the descriptors come from the ability?
Oh my God. Descriptors are just... Dude, descriptors are going to be...
The ability comes from the descriptor.
Dude, you keep talking while I'm talking. Like, how am I supposed to answer?
Go ahead.
Descriptors are going to be the predicates that you apply unto God to know who He is.
Yeah.
Okay? For example, power. It's a descriptor. You can predicate that unto God. Therefore, we know God is all-powerful because He gave that descriptor in the Quran. Okay, so can you make your argument?
Yeah, well, you just said that... What you just said is that the sorry, I forgot the first word you said. You said the abilities come from the descriptors.
Oh my gosh. The abilities okay, listen, ability is just having the power to do something. Okay? And these descriptors are abstract. Now, what is being described is going to be concrete. Okay, hence why it's a descriptor or a predicate, and then you predicate that unto God, which is something that is concrete. Okay? Now, what this being said,
predicating that onto God because that's a name or because he is
you keep asking 30, 40, 50 questions in a row.
Yeah,
like, you're not. Listen to me, dude. You're asking too many questions. Relax. Now, the essence of God has the ability to do things in virtue of his attributes. Does that make sense? Now make an argument.
The essence of God has the ability to do things in virtue of his attributes.
Make your argument. That's enough questions. What is the argument?
That doesn't make any sense because the essence of God causes the attributes he said.
What? Who said the essence of God causes the attributes?
You did.
What? Please get the video.
I can't.
Please, can you wait. Get the point. If you recorded, show me where I said the essence of God causes his attributes.
Yeah, how can I don't know how to rewind this. You can't do that.
The point is that you can't. No one said that God's essence causes his attributes or the dealing of his attributes. No one said that.
I'm pretty sure you did, but okay.
Can you bring an argument, bro, or I'm gonna make you pack it up?
Why are those I just gave the argument.
No, you didn't. You asked questions.
Yes, I did, because you said it
No,
causes.
What was the argument?
The argument is the argument is what I based on what you just said about what I said about you saying that it causes the attributes is that it's incoherent.
Like, don't talk about presupposition. I don't believe God causes his attributes. The essential attributes. God does not cause his essential attributes. Why does the essence have the
attributes that it has?
What?
Why does the attributes have the essence, or why does the essence have the attributes it has?
Oh, dude. Oh my God. Just constantly asking questions, can't actually make an argument.